It's the MOTION method, and it's an acronym. So M stands for mission. So you want to think about the mission that you're on. And I'm going to be relating this to brand development for our purposes today. So for example, if you are a one-on-one service provider who is looking to potentially scale your business and maybe even shift your brand a bit so that you can spend more time with you want to start a family, so you want to spend more time with your family, and you want to earn more income because having a bigger family means you generally need more income to provide for them. So one of your brand development goals is to have scalability, to have a scalability built into your business model, meaning work that you don't need to deliver one-on-one necessarily. If that is your mission, that's something that you want to have as your reality in the next 3 to 5 years, that's a great mission. So that mission is, you couldn't, it's not necessarily one project. There's a lot of things that you could do, a lot of different projects you could do to accomplish that, and a lot of action steps that need to fit within those projects, but it's something, a bigger picture goal that's probably going to take at least a couple years to accomplish. And if you really want help dreaming big, you can try to think maybe 10 years out. What is the mission that you're on as it relates to developing your brand? Maybe you want to change the way we think about health as a society. Maybe you want to you can dream big. I love to dream in a 10-year time frame because you almost don't have to be super realistic, but then you'll see as we move through this process, you'll get an opportunity to make it more realistic and figure out what you need to do now to make that happen. So start with your mission, that's M. And then you move on to an overview. So an overview is just exactly what it sounds like, a quick overview of what accomplishing that mission would actually look like. So you don't need to dive way into the details, but if you can think about the most important components of that mission. So in the example that I shared before, where if you're a one-on-one service provider who's looking to add scalability into your business model so you can spend more time with your family, the important components to include in the overview might be the amount of money that you're making, the offers that you have available. Hey, Allison, thanks so much for joining. We're just getting into this model. So those important components to include might be your income, your offers that you have available, your, what would be another thing? Offers that you have available, maybe your brand presence needs to shift. Maybe you need to be viewed a little bit differently than the way you're viewed now. There's multiple components that can fit into that, but just identifying those key things that really matter for that mission. So, it doesn't matter so much if you have a 10-page website versus a 5-page website for that goal, for that mission to be accomplished. So what you want to do is think about what really matters. Well, in this particular case, it's the time you're spending in your business each day, the amount of money that you're making, the type of work you're doing, that would be important, and the offers that you're providing for people. Those would probably be the most important things to consider in this particular example. So for your overview, you just want to pick out those most important areas to be considering, and then actually think about what do those tangibly look like. So for example, if you're making $100,000 as a one-on-one service provider and you want to have a few kids and you want to spend no more than 4 hours a day working, and you want to be earning $400,000, then you might start to consider, okay, what offers could I actually make available to people that would allow me to spend that amount of time in my business, 4 hours per day, cap it at that, and also earn the amount of money that I need to make to provide for my kids. But you have to decide on those things first. So thinking about what that picture, giving just a quick overview of the most important pieces of the picture of what it would look like if you were to have accomplished your mission. So that's the second thing, that's O, M-O, mission and overview. Now we are into the T, which is the transformation. So here's where we take stock of where we are right now. Where is your brand right now? And then we begin to consider the milestones to reach where it is you want your business to go, to reach that mission. You want to take stock of what your business looks like now, where you want it to go, and then what we do is almost work our way backwards from that mission having been accomplished to where you are now. So I like to think of this in phases and breaking it down to usually 4 phases is a good one, and you'll notice that when you start to do this, the first phase, so that would be the most current phase, the phase that you'll move through first, it will likely include more details than the second phase and third phase, and then the fourth phase will probably be quite a bit more obscure because you're getting really close to accomplishing that mission, and it's harder to know all the details that are involved with that, and you don't need to know them now. And if you try to figure out all the details, they're likely going to change. This is one of the biggest things I had to learn, is that you don't have to have everything planned out perfectly for multiple years down the road, because likely things are going to shift and change, the market's going to change, whatever, or you'll figure things out along the way that actually make it so much simpler to move through that phase than you ever thought it possible. So what you want to do is focus on that first phase, maybe the next 3 months, 6 months, maybe a year. If your mission was on a 10-year timeline, maybe you're just thinking about the next 18 months, right? So whatever phase one looks like to you, a good example also would be if this is a 2 to 3 year mission that you're on. When it comes to developing your brand, maybe you really want to position yourself as an authority and get paid to speak on stages. Maybe that is the mission that you're on in your brand, and that's kind of, you see that as being a 3-year timeline, maybe 2-year timeline. So your first phase may be somewhere between 4 to 6 months. That would be a good first phase. So the transformation portion includes where your business is, where your brand and business is now, and then the milestones along the way, what each of those would look like. So you almost do like a mini outline or a mini overview, like I just said, mini overview for each of those. So and as I said, those further out phases are going to be, you're not going to include as much in the overview because you don't need to, but you do need to know where your business is now, and you need to have a pretty good overview of what the end of that first phase would look like so that you can move towards it. So in the example that I was giving before, the one-on-one service provider who is looking to scale, if you're a one-on-one service provider, you're looking to scale your business because you want to spend more time with your family, grow your family, all of that. Maybe that first phase is coming up with a scalable offer. Maybe it's positioning yourself as a coach rather than a done-for-you service provider. Maybe that's the case. So then you'd have some opportunities to scale your offers, offering group programs, things like that. So maybe that's the case for you, or in this particular example. So transformation, I take stock of what's going on in your business now, and then map out those phases, the milestones that will really get you towards that mission. Moving on. We went from mission to overview to transformation. Now we go to the initial phase. So what we're doing is breaking down the initial phase, and we're deciding the immediate priority within that initial phase. So there's kind of two eyes here. So initial phase is that phase one. We're really just moving towards that, and like I said, you want to get more detailed with it than you would any of the further out phases, because you'll figure out things in phase one that will help you to better map out and detail phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, however many phases you want. I usually like to do 4 phases, and that's just me. So initial phase is, you want to get that pretty detailed, so you generally have a rough like I said, a rough overview of what that initial phase is going to look like. What does that include? How much money are you making? What types of offers might be out there? Maybe you need to update some things on your website, whatever it is. Now, when you get to the initial phase, we are looking at which of these which of these most important components needs help first. Which one do we need to focus on first? Which one is usually you want to decide this by which one is the furthest away from where you want it to be. So if you want to make $400,000 and right now you're making $40,000, but you have an offer that you could easily turn into a group program, you maybe need to focus on increasing your price points right now so you start to attract more clients who will be able to afford the types of offers that you'll be putting out there. See what I'm saying? So that's just an example, but you're really looking at what the initial priority it needs to be when it comes to that most important area that you need to be doing work in. Really, that's what it is. So doing work. Now, when you've decided the initial phase, what is the immediate priority, then what we're going to do is outline. So we need an outline plan to accomplish that goal, to handle that immediate priority. And the best way to do this, I mean, this is pretty basic stuff, but brain dump, I love to think of steps to accomplishing a goal in terms of either projects or action steps. Projects being something that might take, maybe you can get it done in a day, maybe in a couple hours, but it's like a one-time thing. Once you do it once, it's done. And then action steps are something that need to be done on a consistent basis over time. So brain dump a list of the projects and action steps that you need to do in order to prioritize, to really get where you want to go in terms of that immediate priority. So in the example that I shared before, if let's say you are that one-on-one service provider who wants the scalable offers, maybe you need to raise your prices, and that means you need to position your offers as a little more valuable than what you have been doing. So maybe you need to hire a copywriter and update the copy on your website, and put some new great photos up on your site, and just do some other things that really elevate the look and feel of your brand so that you're able to charge a higher price point. That may be what you need to do. So those are some examples of, projects and action steps you could put in place. So making that list, just a brain dump list of projects and action steps, and then make an organized outline of the projects and action steps that you're going to tackle in what order to really reach whatever your goal is for that initial or that immediate priority. And that's really, the immediate priority needs to be a goal, okay? So maybe it is aligning my online presence with where I want my brand to go. That's an example. So maybe that means doing a bit of a website overhaul, updating your social media profiles, and making sure you have consistent content going out on a regular basis on a couple of your key platforms. That's a great goal. Then making that list, that brain dump list of all of the different projects and action steps, turning it into an organized outline so that you know in what order you're going to focus on these things. And then we finally get to the next steps. Now, this is the fun part because it's the most approachable part. The fun parts for me are both the mission, dreaming big, and then once we get to the next steps, it's like freedom because you know what to do next. So in this example of elevating your online presence and aligning it with where you want your brand to go, maybe that the first thing that you decided you wanted to focus on, the first thing on your list was your website. Maybe the next step just involves adding new photos and new copy to your homepage. That could be a great next step that you could get done this week. And then really your next steps should break down into a couple of key, maybe like 1 or 2 action steps, those consistent action steps, and maybe 1 to 2 projects that you could realistically get done in about 2 weeks' time. And the reason this works so well to use this method and you break your action steps down or your next steps down that way is because you can put them on your calendar. So even if you're working on something that seems really scary, if you put it on your calendar, you know what you need to do next, you're much more likely, first of all, you can ask for accountability and share it with other people versus just saying, oh yeah, I'm kind of working on this thing, and then no one ever really can hold you accountable for doing that, and you're not going to hold yourself accountable. If you say, oh, I'm going to update my homepage with new photos and new copy this week, then you're able to tell people about that. You can hold yourself accountable, other people can hold you accountable, and other people can support you in doing that and cheer you on. So having those really super clear and defined action steps that you're able to take in a short period of time, it helps you to build momentum. And once you take those initial action steps, those next steps, what that does is it knocks the first domino down. And guess what the last domino is in this sequence of dominoes? It's getting you towards your mission. It's accomplishing your mission. So if you can identify those next steps that you need to take right now, like tomorrow, to hopefully move you in that direction. And that's the thing, is you have to trust that you're moving in that direction, that you have to just trust that taking action is going to create the clarity that you need, and it's going to attract the right opportunities to you, the right support to you, and you'll be able to reach that mission probably faster than you ever thought possible because you're building momentum along the way. So there you have it, the M.O.T.I.O.N method for reaching your big brand development goals.